Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coffee with Craig. It is a beautiful, beautiful Wednesday morning. Hump day. Time to get through the day, or the middle of the week. Time to get through the week. There you go. The day's just starting, and I'm already thinking about how I'm going to get through the day. Go figure. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about cities who are pushing to destroy seized firearms. Now, in California in particular, this is a big issue because there are so many different ways and opportunities that law enforcement utilize and abuse in order to be able to seize our firearms. And in California, in a number of municipalities, once your firearms have been seized, legally or not, oftentimes getting them back can be a major task. And that's a problem because, in particular in California, and apparently in other states throughout the country, there is this major push to destroy seized guns. Now, we're not just talking about guns that are used in crimes. We're not just talking about lost or stolen guns. We're talking about or guns that are handed in during, gun buybacks. We're talking about, once again, guns that have been confiscated. So you have some areas, and Fox News was reporting yesterday that in some cities like Tucson, Arizona, and Savannah, Georgia, they're actually destroying guns in contrast with state law. So there's a state law that says you are not allowed to destroy these seized guns, and they are in fact destroying them. Now, what I thought you guys would find amusing in this story was kind of the argument with some of the folks. There was a gentleman, I think his name is Henry Hall, and he's a legislator, and he's talking about why we need to destroy these guns. And here's the segment that I think you guys are going to find incredibly amusing. He goes, it says here, Hall does not agree. Here we go. So someone else said, there's absolutely no reason to destroy a perfectly legal item just because the item was stolen and is now in the hands of law enforcement. See, because law enforcement argues, well, hey, we don't want a gun that comes through law enforcement to ever go back out on the street and be used in a crime. So we'd rather just destroy it because a brand new gun obviously couldn't be used in a crime, right? Right. So here's what the other guy, Hall, said. He said, a lot of people say these guns won't end up in the hands of the wrong people. These guns do, he said. Asked if he had a specific example of that, he said he did not. But he knew that it happened. Somehow he divined out of absolutely nowhere that it happens. But wait, there's more. He says, asked if reselling the guns might provide a cheap alternative for people looking to buy a gun for self-defense. Hall said, most people who buy for legitimate purposes, they buy new weapons. That's what I believe. Yeah, so the point here being is that, and this is just one more example of every single piece of legislation that these folks come up with is all based on feeling, not fact. It's based on their own perceived situation, their perceived reality that is based on absolutely zero fact. Folks, this is the sort of stuff that we have to deal with. These people are in the majority here in the state of California. I know, those of you in other states, I know you're saying, run, run, or you feel sorry for us. But let me just tell you, these folks, they're breeding. They're having kids. They're moving to other states. They're going to Oregon, Washington, Nevada. They're going to Colorado. They're going to wind up in Arizona and Texas. So you need to know that these folks out there exist. And the mainstream media completely tends to agree with them. So anyway, you need to check and make sure, what is the policy in your state? What's the policy in your state regarding seized firearms? Are they allowed to be destroyed or are they not? If they're seized and it's supposed to be temporarily, what's the process for getting your firearms back? You need to know that, because in the event that your firearm should ever, for some reason, be seized, you need to know how to get them back before they wind up getting destroyed. Because trust me, there are folks out there in some municipalities and some law enforcement who, well, they want to destroy your guns because they just believe more guns are out there, the greater opportunity there is for crime. So with that, We will now go to your thoughts. Here we go. Jerry Candy Keith. I look for older guns in pawn shops. It is the only place to get good older guns. You know, it's a great place. It's, you know, a lot of people are collectors, and a lot of times you never know what you're going to find, whether it's a firearm or something else at a pawn shop. So a lot of times it's an opportunity for you to get a classic firearm. A lot of times when these guns are seized, people don't even know what they have. They may have something that's a valuable classic, and guess what? Or an antique, and they're about to destroy it. Why? Because they want more guns off the street, because someone's going to use a World War II rifle to go and commit a drive-by. Just saying. Dun, dun, dun. Ignacio, I'm sure he believes in unicorns also. Yeah, you're probably right. He probably does. From his crystal ball. That's from Milo Knapp. Well, there you go. Yeah, probably from the crystal ball. The war on the Second Amendment is far from over. Once again, that's Ignacio. Yes, the war from the Second Amendment, the war against the Second Amendment is far from over. But understand this, it's not just about the Second Amendment. We have a fundamental human right to be able to defend ourselves. A fundamental human right. That is considered an inalienable right, meaning the government didn't give it, so the government can't take it away. The Second Amendment, all of the Bill of Rights, all they do is codify what our rights are, what our fundamental human rights are. They don't give us those rights. They codify them. So that's just one particular note. And you know, the other thing that was noted in the article is oftentimes these firearms that are sold at the pawn shops or sold to dealers, they're used, it's an inexpensive way for people to be able to buy a firearm for personal defense or to be able to exercise their Second Amendment right. I mean, you know, you have a gun that could be $700 and now you're able to buy it from a pawn shop for $400 or $500. That's a significant savings for some folks. That could make a big difference for some people, and once again, their ability to be able to defend themselves. Looking for more. I got my M1 Grand at a pawn shop. That was Tony Anderson. See, once again, you're making my point. People, once again, are using that as an opportunity to be able to oftentimes purchase firearms that they otherwise wouldn't be able to purchase. Keep in mind, especially in states like California, these people are going to go through a background check anyway. So what's the difference if I'm going to go and if someone, because I'm not going to go do it, if someone is going to go commit a crime, what's the difference if they buy a new firearm and commit the crime, or whether or not they buy a used old firearm to commit the crime? They still have to go through the same exact background check. In the state of California, they still have to go through the same exact waiting period. They still have the same exact limitations on when they can purchase these firearms. So why does it matter whether or not we're buying a new one or a used one? If it can be legally owned in the state of California, you ought to be able to buy it. Well, I won't even get into whether or not it should be legally owned, but according to the law, there should be no issue. Dun, dun, dun. Our foolish friends, neighbors here in California will say that the Second Amendment was written to protect one-shot muskets. My response would be the type of commitment was to protect the people, the right to keep there and use the most highly technologically advanced weapons of the day. That's what I want. Yeah, well, exactly. You know, it's like saying, well, the First Amendment only applied to a scroll and an ink pen. Well, no, now we say it applies to the internet. We say it applies to newspapers and the printing press. I mean, all of these various different things that you and I know are in fact the case, you know, they kind of ignore when it comes to modern technology, when it comes to firearms. But also understand this, the Second Amendment's not about hunting. With all due respect to all you hunters out there, it's not even about just that personal stuff. It's about your right to be able to defend yourself from all enemies, foreign and domestic, up to and including a tyrannical government. That's what the Second Amendment was meant to be about. And unfortunately, some folks, they don't agree with that, largely because they're part of that tyrannical government, at least here in the state of California. In any case, folks, that's Coffee with Craig for the day. Look forward to talking with you again tomorrow.
If you like these updates, please share them with your friends and subscribe to our YouTube channel.